ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this meeting of the Governance and Audit Committee. A very warm welcome to several new members of the team coming along today for the first time, and welcome. And as I always say, your input is always greatly appreciated. We do try to treat people with respect and dignity and constructive challenge, I hope, and I hope people see it that way. But thank you very much for coming along tonight. Greatly appreciated. Okay, item 1 on the agenda is apologies for absence. Yes, thank you. Councillor Jordan and Councillor Don Reid, sorry. Thank you. Any declarations of interest? No? Okay. Minutes of the last meeting then, pages 3 to 18, for correctness only. Someone prepared to move that they're correct record? Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Norma. Anyone against? No. Thank you very much. Item 4 on the agenda then is the call-in regarding safeguarding of children's money.
Chair, can I just mention we've not covered actions arising. I think there's an action table at the back.
There is. Hang on. Yeah, that's attached the minutes. Maybe it actually ought to just be a separate item, which is the action log in the agenda. Is that possible next time? Taylor? Separate item? Yeah, that would be so. Yeah, that would be so. Thank you. Norma?
Sorry, Chair, I've got 1 or 2 comments. I noticed most are in progress, but I think it would be really good if we could give a deadline for completion, because otherwise it'll go on and on and on. And there was nothing against the action in relation to the draft annual governance statement, I think, which is probably the last one. Yeah.
Yeah, obviously the annual governance statement will come with the draft statement of accounts, won't it? So.
Yeah, sorry. So you are right, Norma. So what we should write in there is where we are with this. So you've made a series of requests, recommendations, and they've been taken into consideration. So when it comes back to you, they would have all been in there. And just for completeness, Chair, because I said to you before, just before, so in the item before that around housing benefit subsidiary audit. Points 2 and 3, just was this is completely my fault because the benefits manager did provide me with that information. I haven't passed it on to the committee, so I will sort that out by the end of the week.
Thank you, Rhys. Have a severe reprimand. Good.
I will tell myself off.
Tracy.
Actions. Thank you. Chair, while we're on those actions, page 16, the item about more information about the digital strategy review, that's been circulated to the committee, so we'll mark that as complete. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that if and when these items are completed, we take them off. Yeah.
Yes, we need to know they're completed, but once it's come to the committee and we see it's completed, just take it off and just focus. And I think it's always helpful as well to have in the minutes when it's an action rather than a resolution. Because sometimes I have to go through and think, oh, that's an action. So I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thanks, Norm. I'm sure Taylor and the team will pick that up. Okay, then. Agenda item 4. My apologies to colleagues from Social Services. I don't know who's going to take us through this report.
That would be me, Chair.
Oh, Jay, welcome.
Hello, I do apologise for having to come online. I was travelling back from Hertfordshire today and we had a massive traffic jam, so I do apologise, but obviously I'll still talk to the report if that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. I hope you're not sat in your car on the M whatever.
No, I managed to find a quieter space. So really, just to sort of summarise for everybody, for yourself, Chair, and obviously for members, it's just to explain that there isn't any additional updates since the last report, other than to say The only outstanding action that needed to be completed was the corporate parenting strategy. That is due to be finalised and taken to corporate parenting board on the 17th of October, and then that action will be completed, and then all of the actions within the action plan will then be completed. I think the key bit, just to assure everybody that what we've been doing at this current point in time is developing a DIP sample checklist process. So we've developed a number of questions in preparation for when we're re-audited, and that's really just about doing any underlying checks ourselves first, just to make sure that there's everything that we did agree to implement has been done, and we're doing that at this moment in time. And then just to confirm, we will be re-audited, and I don't want to tread on Dan's toes, but we will be re-audited, I gather, towards the end of September, beginning of October. So it's really just to assure everybody that was the only outstanding action. Everything else has been completed, and obviously what we're trying to do is just make sure that we've got the necessary internal checks in place, and if there are any issues, then we can address those before we're re-audited.
Thank you for that, Jay. I'll leave my comments to the end, but are there any questions? No? Any comments? Norma?
I'll only say I was reassured by the report, and it's good to see it and good to see all the actions completed.
Thank you, Norma. If there are no other comments, I'd just like to reiterate what Norma's just said. I think there's a tremendous amount of work that's gone into this from where we were. And again, you know, clearly identifying where the monies are and were and likely to go. So I think, you know, the team are to be commended for that, for the work they've done. There's only one issue I'd like to raise, and I think it's the one you've picked up anyway, Jay. It's good to hear that there's another audit taking place either within the next sort of 3 days or in October. That would be very useful. The item in page 43, which is what you said, sorry, let me just check. The corporate parenting board, the state draft going to the corporate parenting board, sorry. I think all I would want is that as and when the audit is done in October, and as and when the policy is signed off, hopefully in November 24, that we just have a short report back to this committee on the 30th of January, saying it's now all completed, everyone's signed up to it, we've adopted the strategy, and audit hopefully will give you, I hope, a clean bill of health. And at least then we can, as Norma said, we can just sign that off then and leave you to rest for some time then. But the DIP sampling, I think, is very important. If you can do that throughout, I don't know whether you can do it quarterly, 6 monthly or whatever, I think that is very important as well, because again, you can test your processes and procedures. So that's my only comment there, is that I think the recommendation will be that we note the Council has taken adequate steps to respond to the recommendations set out in the report. However, a further short report comes back to Governance and Audit Committee on the 30th of January to satisfy the recommendation regarding the strategy and any comments that obviously Dan and his team may pick up. Everyone happy with that? Thank you, Jay. Well, can I have someone to move that recommendation, please? Thank you, Norma. Can I have a seconder? I just need a hand. Thank you, John. Anyone against? No, thank you. That's carried. Jay, thank you very much. I don't know whether you need to go back on your journey now, but thank you for that. Item 5 on the agenda is then the audit of adoption allowances.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So in terms of updates, much like the children's safeguarding of their monies, there isn't much to update. We are very much in progress with everything. Most of the actions have been completed. We have undertaken audits of all of the adoption allowances, which has allowed us to have really clear oversight of what's been happening, where things have gone wrong, and putting them right and making those changes. We've got a new flowchart in process, and we've got the staff now who are trained and will continue to have that ongoing training moving forward. We've also built in a quality assurance process to ensure that all the assessments are adequately monitored moving forward.
Thank you very much. Any questions on agenda item 5?
Just one, Chair. I was assured by the paper, but only one thing struck me. You talked about bespoke training for grade 5 posts and said about the number that have gone through it, I think, from what I recall. I was just wondering, is that compulsory?
The training?
Training, yeah. There was reference to bespoke training for grade 5
No,
posts.
it's not compulsory training. We've devised a package of training for the grade 5s who are actually doing the adoption allowances and undertaking that work.
Yeah, I understand that, but is that compulsory? Do they have to do it?
Yes, they would have to do it to know how to do the allowances.
That's what I wanted to know. Thank you.
Are there any other questions from members? No one showing. Any comments? No, I'd like to make the same comment. Great deal of work that's gone on here again from where we were. And just like to thank the team again, your team of staff for delivering these changes. I know it's been long and arduous, the same as the previous one, but just to say thank you for that. Clearly, we've got a recommendation, and again, I think it's the same, that we note the contents of the report and the accompanying audit reports. We note that the Council is taking adequate steps to respond to the recommendations set out in the report, but I think we just need to await the outcome of the further audit, which is taking place in November, and once we receive that, hopefully again we give you a clean bill of health and off you go. Will you be doing any dip sampling again on this or not? Is that something that can be done in regards to the adoption allowances?
Because the numbers are so small, Chair, they dip samples it every year annually, because we do annual reviews on them. Okay.
That's okay. Lovely. Thank you very much. So we got the recommendation then, and I'll clarify that now because I read the proposal wrong, that we note that the Council is taking adequate steps to respond to the recommendations set out in the reports. However, committee await the outcome of the further audit report before sign-off. Someone move, please. Thank you, John. Can I have a second there? Thank you, Norma. Anyone against? No. Thank you very much. Item 6 then is unaccompanied asylum-seeking children's impress.
Hello, Chair. It's me again. I
well done, Jay.
I will go after this, I promise. So basically, just to share with yourself, Chair, and members, I don't know if you saw within the contents of the report, but when the audit was undertaken, it did come out that there were limited assurances. It wasn't critical, there were limited assurances. So what we've been doing is primarily focusing on a number of key actions to strengthen the existing processes. We have gone back to using a paper mechanism in order to ensure that there's an audit trail. Some of the key measures have been about putting appropriate safety measures in place and having a key code for the safe so that any monies that are being distributed are being accessed with the relevant security measures. And a lot of it's also been focusing on trying to ensure that newly qualified staff who come into the service are prepared and understand the processes and practices. Most of the recommendations really focused on strengthening our existing systems and ensuring that there was an appropriate audit trail and the relevant checks and balances are taking place. So I just wanted to assure everybody that we've been focusing on those particular practical measures, and actually a lot of that work, as I've already identified in the plan, has been completed. I think the key bit for us is obviously we'll be at some point obtaining a new database system, and one of the things that we want to focus on is how we can use that database system to help with more reassurances. One of the key things that we have discussed and implemented more recently is ensuring that if a young person wishes to access information about their financial records or any monies that have been spent on them, particularly in terms of cash, then we're making sure that there's a statement that's going to be attached to the young person's file on the current database system, but obviously the plan will be to do something similar in the new one. And my hope is that I'll be able to work with the likes of Ian and his team to see how we can make better use of the new database system when it comes into place.
Thank you for that, Jay. Again, a very comprehensive report. Can I just ask whether you are being audited again here, or has it been done?
Sorry, Chair, I do apologise.
Sorry.
Could you say that again?
Yeah. Has this matter been, is it due to be re-audited, or has it been done? Dan? Sorry, Dan?
That's okay. Thank you, Chair. It has not been re-audited yet, but it will be. But that will be after Christmas.
Right, okay. Any idea after Christmas? Is it January, February, March? And which Christmas are we talking about?
Within Q4 of 24-25, yeah.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you very much. Okay, any questions? No? Any comments? No? I'll say it again. Many congratulations and thank you for all the hard work again undertaken on this piece of work. And Jay, and thank the team again for undertaking this piece of work. Greatly appreciated. And I think the recommendation for us again is that we note the Council has taken adequate steps to respond to the recommendations set out in the reports. But I think I just need to clarify this point. However, again, we await the outcome of the further audit report in Q4 before we sign it off. Are you happy and content with that? Yep. Okay. Anyone prepared to move, please? Thank you, Norma. Don't nod your head again. Can I have a seconder, please? Well done, John. Thank you very much. Anyone against? No? Thank you very much. Can I just say to colleagues in social service, if you wish to leave the meeting now, you can. If you wish to stay and hear some stimulating discussion, you can. But it's a matter for you. But again, thank you for all turning up to this evening. Safe trip back, Jay, as well. Thank you very much. Okay, item 7 on the report then is the annual corporate plan self-assessment report, pages 83 to 174. Tracy.
Thank you, Chair. So this report goes to scrutiny in terms of performance, governance and audit committee in terms of its self-assessment nature, and then we'll go on to Cabinet and full council. It's a requirement under the Local Government and Elections Act and also the Wellbeing of Future Generations Act for us to self-assess and look at ourselves to see if we've met the performance requirements. We've talked before at this committee about the length of the report and it doing lots of different functions, and we would once again reflect and say probably we need to take a new approach next year, and we've been talking to other councils about that same issue. This is sort of a common approach at the moment, but perhaps it needs disentangling. I'm going to say at the start that by the time it goes to council, there will also be a public-facing version of this, which is of more perhaps purpose and interest to the public, disentangling some of the kind of more technical elements out of that. That said, the committee's got the whole report and the full composite there. Paul, do you want to?
Yeah, thank you, Tracy. So I just want to clarify just a couple of things. First of all, the report itself is split into 3. So we have the main report, which has self-assess and look back in terms of progress against the corporate plan. That has been based upon updates and reports provided to the performance scrutiny committees on the progress against service plans. Those have fed into how we're assessed in terms of delivering against the overall corporate plan. Other reports have also been used to support that as well. So there's other annual reports such as the climate change report, digital strategy annual report, and other reports as the like. And then in terms of assuring ourselves in terms of how do we know and how do we self-assess the effectiveness of our performance and governance arrangements, Appendix 2 goes into detail in terms of how we've done that, and we've used the annual governance statement as part of that process, so we're not duplicating that role, and that's looked at our governance, and that's come here previously as part of the annual governance statement and statement of accounts papers. And then also in the conclusion of the report, we have an action plan in terms of what we're going to be doing in terms of improving in this year, 24-25. And then just finally, as Tracy said, the report's gone to scrutiny. The recommendations from scrutiny is included in the cover report, and this report has also gone to the corporate management team and the executive board to be reviewed as well. So we're happy to take any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Tracy, for presenting the report. Obviously, a very comprehensive document. I'm pleased to see it's only 85 pages. one of the authorities I went to the other night was 183, but there we are. And I'm pleased that there is going to be a public executive summary, really, so people can actually understand what's happening within the council and that. So thank you for that. Okay, members, any questions? Norma?
I'd like to preface with some comments, if I may, Chair. I have to say, I found this report really good to read. I thought it was impressive. It was one of the few governance documents I enjoyed reading, because it gave me a good overview in terms of what the Council is achieving and what its challenges were in the various areas, particularly in social services and housing, which we're well aware are big challenging areas for the Council. So, you know, I want to sort of offer that feedback because I think it's really important, because I did think it's a really good document. It was good to see targets exceeded in some areas. I just question perhaps next year you need to look at those targets tough enough, which one would always do as part of a cyclical thing. I revisited the Welsh Government guidance on this, and I noticed that I think actually, Paul, you've done a really good job of integrating the various reporting sort of requirements into it. So I think it was good there. But where I think the report was weak, it was in relation to what and how we can do better. Because at the end of it, when you read through the report, the only criticism that I could pick out was in relation to social services training, I think it was. And I thought, well, we're not that perfect. We're good, but we're not that perfect. And then when you get to the end, there are just 3 recommendations for action. And if you look at the risk register and internal audit reports, that doesn't quite marry up in terms of our perception, I'd say, you know, as a governance and audit committee. And I don't want to detract from what the achievements the council has had over this last year, because I think they're hugely significant. But I think that a lack of admission of weaknesses in some areas casts doubt on the credibility of the report. You know, the Welsh Government guidance makes it very clear it should be honest and transparent, self-aware, self-reflective, and I just question the extent to which. So I would make a recommendation, if I may, Chair, that the Governance and Audit Committee actually conveys that message to Cabinet, is that we would like to see more in there of what needs to improve in the Council.
Yeah, so I've got some stuff on me. Thanks for that. Thanks for that feedback. I'll just say I think some credit goes to Paul, particularly for trying to bring this together into something that's cohesive. And actually, we had some really good feedback when we went through the scrutiny process as well around it. And I think that's all helped. I think that's a legitimate point to raise. And just for clarity for the committee, so any recommendations you have, they go to Cabinet, and then they either accept as recommendations, or we have to write, say in the report why we're not accepting those recommendations. So yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you, Rhys. And I think you have to find that the Cabinet has to refer it back to us as to why they don't accept them. So they have to tell us. Yeah, that's okay. Thank you, Norma, for that. Are there any other questions? No? Very quiet. Comments? No, I just, so I'm consistent here with my other hats. I would like to endorse what Norma says. I picked up in, again, one of the others, annual self-assessments. They've done exactly the same. Look, this is what we're really good at. These are areas for improvement. But they don't say what they haven't delivered at all. So, and the reasons for that. And I think the question I think always poses, how well does the authority know itself? Because that's what the purpose of the report is, really. And I just endorse what Norma says, a little bit more of, no, we haven't delivered this. And the reason we haven't delivered it is financial, resources, etc., etc. Because we're in an evolving world, aren't we, in local government. You can't do everything nowadays. You have to prioritise. Clearly, you're delivering some really good service in certain areas. There are some areas for improvement, but there are things you will never do now because you haven't got the funding, you haven't got the resources, you haven't got the thing. And I think the people out there need to know, because if they know, then at least you don't get those questions coming about, well, why aren't you doing X? And you say, well, actually, we've told you we're not doing X because we haven't got X, Y, and Z. So I think, for me, it's that openness and that honesty and transparency. And I think I've said it before in a committee. I know, Paul, and you're at the end of the sausage machine on a lot of this. But it's not a criticism. It's actually, we can't do this because of this. And I think you get a lot more credit for it rather than sort of not saying anything, which leaves those. You'll always get questions on some of these issues, but I think it's very important that hopefully that you could include some of that in there to say, look, in these areas we're not doing it because, and we didn't deliver it because in our annual plan for the year we didn't do it because we couldn't do it. So, and I think you've all said that already. So that would be useful. And I think I agree with Norman. We just send out the cabinet to say, can you just incorporate some of that? I'm happy to be rebuked or whatever, but hopefully, I think that would add some value as well.
Thank you, Chair, and I really appreciate the note of the improvement since last year, which we've really worked on. But for next year, we'll take that a bit further also. Thank you.
And in regards to that, I can't understand why you have a 189-page document in one authority. We get an 85-page document in here. I know it's important because it looks at your performance over the year compared to what you said you would do. But actually, what value does it add to the public out there? In reality, and I don't, maybe I'm talking out to a handful of people will read it. And you've got to convert it into Welsh language as well. So, I'll stay there because otherwise I get a little bit uptight over it all. Okay, so if there's no further comments, the recommendations there is that we note the contents of the annual corporate wellbeing self-assessment report 2023-24 and we make such comments or recommendation as is necessary. These recommendations being that the Council should look at raising issues where it hasn't delivered matters and the reasons why, which I hope would give us a bit of openness and transparency. Norm, are you happy with that?
It's really. I think in my notes I had a need for more openness by identifying weak areas of performance and commit to improving matters and adopting best practice.
Yeah. So it's not only weak areas, I think it's also areas you're not delivered. Okay. I'm sure someone will get a resolution out of that or recommendation out of that. Reece. Okay, someone prepared to move that then, please? Thank you, John. Second, Norma. Anyone against? No? Okay. Item 8 on the agenda is Q1 24-25 Corporate Risk Register Update. Tracy or Sean?
Your Honour, tonight, Chair. So thanks very much. I'll introduce this item, which is the Q1 update of the Corporate Risk Register, which covers the period from the 1st of April to 30th of June. I'll just go through the higher level sort of intro and then hand over to Paul for some of the detail. But at the end of Q1, there were 15 risks in total recorded in the Corporate Risk Register, which are considered to have a significant impact on the achievement of the Council's objectives and our legal obligations. In summary, there are 15 of those risks outlined in the report. 8 of those risks are designated as severe and 7 of those are designated as major risks. In comparison to Q4, there is no change to 13 of the 15 risks, but there are changes to 2 of the risks, and Paul will take you through that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. So first of all, there were 2 risks. One is the pressure on housing and homelessness risk, which has increased from 20 to 25, and the explanation is provided in the report. And then the stability of adult social services providers, that has reduced in the risk score. And again, that is the commentary to support that is outlined in the report as well. Just to note for the committee, just to say thanks to those committee members who attended the training beforehand on risk management. And also the report for Q1 has also been updated to reflect the new cabinet members as well, responsible for each of those risks as well, to reflect the cabinet changes as well. And the risks have been reviewed 24-25 as part of the service plan reviews as well, so they've been updated to reflect any new actions and activity going on. Okay, happy to take any questions from the committee members.
Thank you, Paul, for that. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Sean. I apologise. Thank you, Sean. As you know, I'm a bit disturbed this evening. Are there any questions? Norma.
I just had a little niggle. I think the risk register was fine. There was sort of, we had amber circle ratings for city centre security and safety, asset rationalisation, adult service, housing and children's service. And there was a comment that it requires management interventions to improve performance and close monitoring by heads of services and SMT. And I was just looking for that assurance that that is actually taking place, because if I go back at the start of when I became involved with this committee, one of my worries was lack of management oversight, you know, that seemed to be apparent. I think things have improved. I think they've improved greatly. But I just would like some assurance that management is closely monitoring those areas.
Short answer, Norma, is yes. I'm involved in a number of those things. So, you know, service managers will be dealing with those issues on a day-to-day basis. You know, they will then be, you know, managed by people like Tracy and David, who heads the service, with the service managers within that. And then on a fortnightly basis, there's sort of 3 directorates across the local authority have directorate meetings, and we look at those as a directorate then as well. And then obviously they're escalated from there, and that's why these ones are so important, because they are obviously covered off in the CMT and Exec Board agendas then. So they are actively managed, you know, and I think we've talked about this sometimes in the past now, the adult social care where there's interest in, so, you know, there's some regional work done then on commissioning of services that actually made it more stable, and we were able to manage that risk down. Things like homelessness and housing, and David would be able to attest to this, obviously that is something that is a very big issue for us, and, you know, whilst there is an improvement programme in place for that, and David's leading on a transformation programme for it, it's going to remain a very high risk for the local authority for the foreseeable.
Thank you for that, Rhys. Are there any other comments, questions from members? No? Any comments from anyone? No, the only comments I'd make is clearly with the increase in risk of obviously the homelessness and the housing agenda and the cost of delivery of that, we've always had the pressures on children's services, which is ever increasing, I believe, and not going to be helped by, you know, the Welsh Government missive about delivering this service in-house and no profiteering within the private sector. As I said, I've commented on that before. I just don't know how a local authority is going to deliver it with some of these most vulnerable young people and the specialist skill sets they require, and the other increase in demands. I'm just wondering whether the balance in the council medium-term budget is going to be increasing from 20 to 25, because obviously there's huge now pressures on the budget. I'm sure, you know, Marian's got it under control, but is that likely to increase in the next couple of months? Because obviously we'll be setting the budget shortly, and I'm just a little bit concerned that, you know, if you've got the money in the bank to deliver it, then great. But with these ever-increasing budget issues, is it going to cause a problem?
I'll start. Myron's online. I'm sure Myron would want to say a few things about this. I think the short answer to that is it is an ever-increasing issue and risk. The medium-term position across local government is not great. We're going to hit some I know we've had a lot of challenging years. We're going to hit some very challenging years in the next 2 to 3 years. Those pressures don't seem to be going away. You know, there's I think a lot of it's driven by the same sorts of things. You know, the reduction in service provision that would have, over a long period of time, prevented people ended up in the situations they end up now are just not there. Plus then the issues around what happened around the pandemic, social isolation, seeing people with far more complex issues coming through the systems. You know, those are the things that cost a lot of money. There was a BBC article last week because they've opened up some of the family courts now to the press, and the BBC article about a family court up in Liverpool, and there was a young person there that they were in specialist care because of their behavioural issues, and it was £863,000 a year for that one individual. And you don't need many of those in order to really challenge any budget setting.
And I know Marion will come in, but that's the concern I've got. How, you know, people aren't profiteering from this. They're providing very specialist care to these very, very vulnerable young people. And it's not only, you know, children in the looked after system, it's also those educational outside county as well. Some of those I know are multi-thousands of pounds, you know. So it's an ever-increasing demand on local authority with an ever-decreasing financial settlement. So thank you, Rhys, for that. If I was a lawyer, I'd say, look, can you just say yes or no rather than all the rest? But clearly it has got an impact, and, you know, it's not going to get any better, is it really? Marion, did you want to comment? No? Okay, thank you. Marion doesn't want to comment. Anyone else then? No? Okay, so the recommendation is that we consider we've considered that the Cabinet has considered and noted the contents of the report, and I don't think there's any additional commentary really apart from keeping an eye on that budget line really as to whether that risk increases in the next next quarter, which it may well do. Okay, someone prepared to move? Thank you, Councillor Reynolds. Can I have a seconder? Thank you, Norma. You nodded. Well, thank you very much. Anyone against? Nope. Thank you very much. Item 9 on the agenda then is the internal audit progress against Audit Plan 24-25. Dan, are you taking this, or is it? Yeah, Dan. Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, everybody. Yes, this is the Q1 update for 24-25 on the internal audit plan. There are a few points I just wanted to raise in the report, and obviously happy to take any questions at the end. So the early paragraphs outline the staffing position. That remains as it was, has been for a while now, with 3 internal members of staff, myself on 2 days per week, and also a number of audits being supported by colleagues at Swap Internal Audit Services. The longer term arrangements for the internal audit function are in consideration at the moment. That might be one for Myriam rather than myself to update on at the end of this report. In terms of plan delivery, the thing to mention there is there's been a limited report within the quarter that's around fleet and vehicle maintenance, so obviously be due a call in, and then in due course a follow-up review as well. There's also a section in the report focused on counter fraud. Now, going back to the calendar year 23, so around about a year ago now it was, a report was produced by Audit Wales outlining the counter fraud arrangements at Newport City Council. We have undertaken a fraud risk assessment over recent months. That has kind of given a fraud risk landscape for the authority, and has been through discussions at corporate management team, and is due another discussion next month. Any kind of high residual risk areas there are also in the plans for either within the 24-25 audit plan or within the 25-26 plan. The other thing to note on the report, so the internal audit function, so all internal audit functions are required to be assessed against, externally assessed against internal audit standards. In terms of local government, that is the public sector internal audit standards. The one for Newport was overdue. They're meant to be done every 5 years, but it was last done in 2017. Obviously, given previous resource challenges, other things have to be prioritised, but I'm pleased to say that that exercise has now happened. So colleagues at colleagues at Swansea Council undertook that assessment, and a conformed outcome has come of that, which is the highest that you can receive. There are some things which need enhancing, kind of updating of bits and pieces, but nothing major. So I'm working that through at the moment, and I plan to bring the whole report to the next committee. Happy to take any questions about the report, or Myrian, I didn't know if you wanted to jump in there as well.
Myrian, did you need to say anything?
Chair, just to say, in terms of the long-term arrangements, that work is kind of ongoing. The intention is to bring a paper or a presentation to the executive team mid-October. Come to yourselves in Governance and Audit as well at the next meeting, with a view of then making a decision after that, and that will be either cabinet or council. We just need to ascertain which one that is. But I'm certainly aiming to get a decision this side of Christmas, as it were.
Thanks for that, Myrian. Okay, thank you, Dan, for the presentation of the report. Are there any questions from members? Norma.
Thank you, Chair. It's not directly a question of audit, but it's connected to audit. And what I was wondering about is the new procurement legislation, bearing in mind all the contracts that the Council lets, is coming into force now, I think, on the 24th of February. It's been delayed since October. I know other public sector organisations are doing a lot of work in terms of training and making sure you're ready for it on the 24th of October. Just seeking some assurance that all that has been going on, really.
Marion, do you want to respond?
You'll have to forgive me if that was for me. I couldn't quite catch the question.
Marion?
Sorry, I also struggled with that one. I think I'll do that.
It was about the new public procurement provisions.
So the new procurement provisions have been delayed now until next March. They were going to be implemented this autumn. Very recently, in the last week or two, they've been delayed. Training has happened and continues to happen in the council. Coordinated and led by the council's procurement manager and his team. So we've taken the corporate management team through that, and also we've taken various service areas, colleagues, departments, services through online training as well, to both build up awareness and or further detailed training for those that need that kind of more detailed knowledge, so that we are ready for it. So I feel as if we're in a reasonable place at this point, and we've just got a bit more time now as well, given the fact that they've just extended the start date there. But there's a lot of work that has happened and continues to happen.
Thanks, Myrian. Norma?
Yeah, the implementation date now is the 24th of February, and really there's a lot more than training. I think you have to get all your documentation sorted, etc. So it'd be good to get assurance around that. I don't know whether there'll be a paper come into this committee.
Well, we wouldn't ordinarily provide a paper to Governance and Audit on that, because it's a contractual and operational matter. But I'll assure you, yes, all of that has been done.
And that's, but it relates very much to the areas that are audited, and that's why I brought it up, really. You're looking at, internal audit reports here. A lot of them are about tendering, entering into contracts, etc. Anyway, okay, fine.
Well, if they come out of individual audits, obviously we'll address them as that, but just to assure you, the audit team have adapted all the processes and procedures. There's been training across the organisation. It is a rolling agenda item, an action point on CMT. So, yep.
Yeah, thank you for that, Rhys. As I said, the authority, we discussed this on Monday night. There's a huge amount of, there's a task and finish group set up of elected members as well. I'm not saying Newport in that position, but I think it's just that assurance that all the policies and procedures are being addressed, and then anyone who operates them, is fully understanding of it. And I think, from what you say, is we've got that assurance. So thank you very much.
But I will ask the question just in case, Jay.
Yeah. I would say that governance and audit is there for that assurance process, so we just need that question. Thank you, Rhys, for giving that personal assurance, but we'll wait and see what happens. Myron.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Apologies, I can't quite hear everything, but also just to add to what I've just said, and apologies if maybe Rhys has just said it, but we are also updating the Council's financial regs, training material, the Council's procurement strategy. All of these are also being updated to now be in line and comply with those new regulations as well. So I think that's important that we all know as well that it's happening. Thanks.
Thanks, Myrian. I know Dan's going to come in. Perhaps we'll also ask internal audit to look at it to make sure they are robust. Dan.
Yeah, so on the plan for 24-25, there is time, and you'll see that within one of the appendices, especially around this. So we were originally planning on doing a piece of work following the implementation date, but given the delay there, we will be obviously changing that to do a readiness review before they go live.
Thanks, Dan. So in reality, we'll get that assurance from the internal audit review of the processes and policies, etc. So thanks for that, Dan. Any other comments from anyone? No, I've got one now in regards to the limited assurance that's been given. Obviously, we've got no date of when that report was issued. I'm just wondering, Dan, whether you can give some indication as to the number of recommendations which came out of that report. When the report was issued, has the Directorate responded with an action plan, and when are you going back in to review?
Yes, absolutely. I can say first of all, in terms of the issuing of it, it was issued in June, so I'm just loading it up to get the exact date for you. Those involved in the review from the service side, I actually had an email from them last week saying that the actions, sorry, let's take one question at a time. Yes, we received the action plan back to them in terms of what they're going to do to address the issues coming out of it. But what I also had a couple of weeks ago is another update from the service manager saying we're working through these. There's a couple of dates that we had previously said to you which we're not going to quite make, but it'll only be a few weeks behind with them. So I am comfortable at the moment that they're taking ownership of them. At this point, we haven't done any review of those actions and the progress against them. Again, it will be on the plan for later within 24-25. What I will do is in November, December time, reach out to them and ask how they're getting on, and then work out the best timing to check on their progress of the actions that were raised. Sorry, did that cover all of your questions, Chair, or was there something else in there?
I think that was about it. I think the issue for me is the action plan and the date the Directorate wish to sign those actions off by. Clearly, as you've indicated, they've slipped. but we just need to look at some stage as to when, maybe we need the action plan in regards to that area so that it doesn't slip anymore, because again, I've had instances where a report's come out in 2022 and they're still dealing with actions and they're slipping year on year on year. Someone's got to draw a line in the sand at some stage. So it would be useful that on next audit committee, if you could just, in your update, provide a list of the recommendations and the date by which the Directorate has said they will be dealing with them.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, if there's no other comments, then the recommendation is that we note the contents of the report. Someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, John. Someone have seconder? Thank you, Norma. Anyone against? Nope. Thank you very much. Next report is the Draft Governance and Audit Committee Annual Report.
Thanks, Chair. So this is the second annual report of the Governance and Audit Committee. This is the draft document which sets out how the committee has met its legislative duties under the terms of reference through the consideration of the work programme for 2023-24. So the report is brought before committee to consider and approve the wording of the report before the final version is presented to full council.
Thank you. Any questions? Norma.
Sorry. I have one for you, Chair. I think it was during 23-24 we raised concern about the resources for the internal audit function, and I just wondered whether, as a committee, we needed reference to that in the actual report. I thought it was a good report, it was comprehensive and factual, but as the fact that as a committee we raised that, I thought it might be worthwhile recording, but that's your decision, really.
It's the committee's decision, not mine. It's the committee's decision, not mine, but yes, I agree with that. Clearly, as Myron just indicated in the last report, there's a report going to be coming before us quite soon, hopefully November. If not, that will be in January, in regards to what the Council is going to be proposing, whether the status quo remains, presumably, or there's going to be collaborative working, or whatever that may be. I agree with that, Norma, because that's key, and that can be hopefully included in the draft report.
Yeah, we can look to include more information on that.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or any comments? I've got just a couple of issues, I think, which I would like you to consider. In the Governance and Audit Committee Annual Report, it doesn't name who the members of the committee are. So I'm just wondering whether a just introduction saying members of the Governance and Audit Committee for the municipal year 23-24 are, and you've got the elected members. You can then raise also the lay members and whether it would add any value, because obviously it's going to council and lots of councillors don't know who the lay members are, whether you have a little sort of a snapshot about what we do or what we did, or, sort of little biography about that, if that would assist. I think that would be useful. The other comments I'd make, obviously, we've done a lot of work, and they are mentioned in the appendix, in the document, in regards to Appendix 2, the call-ins. And I'm just wondering whether it could be sort of a couple of those could be given as examples as to what the issue was when we called it in, all the work that had been done by the officers in regards to improving that lot, and the outcome. So, this is improved, if we deal with the social services ones or the taxi licensing, which we did, that improved the DBS checks, etc., etc. So it just gives some examples that we are doing a little bit extra over and above the sort of the statutory requirements. So, whether you do sort of 2 or 3 of those, just as an example.
Yeah, we can include that.
Would that be okay? And I think that was it really from me. I think anything, because this will go to council, won't it? And again, you know, people say, well, it's not a public-facing document. Well, the public could see it if they wanted to come to the council meeting and look at the agenda papers. So that would be useful. I don't know whether anyone else has got any comments. No. Okay. So the recommendation is to approve the wording of the attached Governance and Audit Annual Report 24, as stated, with the amendments in regards to what Norma's outlined and what I've outlined, if you can. And then that report, I think, does need to come back here in November, if it can be done for the 28th of November, and then we'll sign that off, hopefully, that it meets the requirements. Is that a reasonable timescale? Yeah, okay. So someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, John. Can I have a second there? Thank you, Norma. Anyone against? No? Thank you very much. Can I just say, Leanne, thank you for your work on that. It's greatly appreciated when someone else has to draft a report for you on your behalf. But thank you very much for your hard work in bringing all that together. Greatly appreciated. Agenda item 11 then is the Governance and Audit Committee self-assessment. Leanne?
Yeah, me again, Chair. So this was something that we considered as a committee earlier in the year, and the committee approved and put together a self-assessment form, which was then shared, and we got the responses back in. So it summarises the responses received. I think we had 77.7% of the committee returned a response. And we also identified some of the strengths of the committee. I think it was good to note that overall there was some strong knowledge across all the factors important to the committee, but there were some areas that were identified for improvement, and the report suggests some actions in terms of a training plan that we could take forward to address some of those gaps. So counter fraud and values of good governance were topics that scored low on confidence and skills that the committee members had, with little or no knowledge. So suggested that we would put on a counter fraud session as the first one in the lineup. The other aspects were accountancy, IT systems and governance. And again, fraud and corruption, financial and contract procedure rules came up. So I note that the committee have had risk management training prior to the committee today, so that's one that's already been concluded. We would look to do counter fraud next. There was also a recommendation that perhaps we link in the lay members to the wider curriculum of member training. So there's regular monthly at least sessions for our elected members, and some of those might be really useful to the lay members, so we can look to do that. We have got a session on the council's governance structure, where we could focus on terms of reference committees at the end of October. So that's something we've already got in the diary, and we could look to link the lay members in with that one. Alternatively, if the committee feel like it would be more benefit to have one specifically for this committee, we could do that too. So the report is essentially asking the committee to consider that training programme and approve that with any further recommendations that they wish to make.
Yeah, thank you, Leanne. Any questions? Norma?
Thank you, Chair. I couldn't correlate the figures. In the beginning, it says 7 of 9 members, 77%, completed the survey. But if you go to page 259, it only lists 6, which is 66.6. On page 259, when you've got organisational knowledge, role and functions into an audit, it just adds up to 6 responses.
Not everybody completed the last part of the form.
Everyone is 6. Everyone is 6. If you go to it on page 259, it's appendix 2, I think. Is it appendix 2? Summary of responses. Every one of the aspects is 6 responses.
I think there might be a wrong table in there. If I'm honest, I'll have to have a look at updating that. Sorry? Yeah, I think there's an out-of-date table in the bottom there. Apologies.
Yeah. I do read the paper.
Well spotted. It was deliberately put in the Norma for you to be picked up.
Just to check. But can I say, if only 6 responded, that's pretty poor. Everyone should respond. It's important.
If you look at the graph showing the summary responses, that is 7 across the piece. So it's obviously an erroneous
It was
table.
7, and then on page 253, at the top, sorry, that's the bit where we didn't have a response on everybody's form. So that one, there were slightly fewer completions on those.
Okay, fine.
But I will update the table and get.
That's okay. The table's wrong, isn't it? Really, that's you know.
Yeah, no worries.
At the end of the day, any other questions from members? Any? Councillor Reynolds.
Only a quick comment, really, just to endorse what Leanne just said about the training being open up to lay members. I mean, as a still a relatively newly elected member, I have found the training extremely useful. And I think opening it up to the lay members is something that will certainly help understanding, without a shadow of a doubt.
Thanks, Councillor Reynolds. Any other comments? I'd just like to endorse that. I don't think we need separate training sessions. I think officer time is very precious in regards to what you deliver. So if you're delivering a training session, as you said, on counter fraud, or unless it's very specific for us as a committee, but some of these things about counter fraud, I think ought to be opened up to general members as well. In reality, because you know, if you open it up, people can come if they want, and if they don't want to come, they don't have to come. But you know, for the members of this committee, I would hope they would come along, and it's the same with the committee session on governance structures, terms of reference, etc., etc. You know, I think most councillors would need to have a refresher on that. Certainly, if you change your constitution, or you know, if you're doing the contract procurement rules and things like that, then I'd rather just, if you issued it out to all councillors, and then invite the lay members to come along as well, because you know, just to have a separate session for us, I think whilst you know that's really grateful, but I think it's officer time is very precious nowadays, and you know, hopefully a training session could be run for everyone. I think the only thing is, again, the comment I make is, if there is a training session on counter fraud, can we know when it is? The same as the others. Obviously, there's a time scale in your proposed learning and development plan. I think the earlier we can get the dates out when they're fixed to lay members and the councillors is essential. So that, you know, if we can have a month's notice, that's great, or whatever, that would be extremely useful. But again, thank you for doing this.
Yeah, of course. We have some dates scheduled in between now and Christmas, and for some of the months afterwards, so we'll send those through. I don't have anything in the diary yet for counter fraud, but we'll come back and have a think on that one.
But if you could get, all the others, just let us know what the dates are. That's great. Okay, the recommendation is that firstly we note the contents of the report. We agree the proposed training and development plan based on the findings. We agree a timeline for implementing the training and development plan, which is set out, but if we can get some key dates, that would be great. And we resolve to review the effectiveness of the training at any future meeting. I think if any member wished to identify some future training, I think we just let you know, Leanne, because again, it's important that, again, this is a continuous improvement journey for us. And I said it again today, every day's a school day, really, so it's picking that up. So someone prepared to move that, please? Councillor Reynolds, you nodded. Thank you. Thank you, Norma. Seconded. Anyone against? Nope. Thank you. Item 12 on the agenda is the call in private sector housing. David?
Thanks, Chair. As agreed with yourself, this is just a really brief verbal update, just to kind of inform committee that an audit of the Environmental Health Housing Service this year offered a limited assurance. Officers work on a range of actions to resolve all points, and as I said, as agreed with Chair, we'll be bringing a full report in November, which will detail the issues, the actions we're taking, and provide a kind of full update then. Thank you.
Thank you for that, David. Obviously, we await the report. As I said to the colleagues in social, we're not here to give you a good thrashing. Really, we're here to look at trying to identify areas for improvement. If we can assist, we will. But again, it's ensuring that the citizens of the Newport City Council are well served by your department and your team. So that's all we're looking to do, and obviously picking up the limited assurance recommendations to ensure that they're dealt with in due course. And we look forward to receiving your report in November.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think there's any questions on that because we await the report. Okay, so we note the comments from David. Item 13 then is the work programme 24-25. Thank you, Reece.
Oh, I'll say, shall I? So,
go on, you take it.
Yeah. So this is the draft work programme for the remainder of the year. So it's for committee comments and additions. Things. So
yeah. I don't know. I'll have to check back. The call in for audit and adoption allowances. Is that one coming back to us in next time, or is it coming back in January? When are you doing the review of audit allowances, audit of adoption allowances, Dan?
It's being done in November, so it won't make
no,
the
so
end of
that will be
November
taken
one.
off and come back in January then. Yeah, thanks, Dan, for that clarification. So that can come off. I think all the rest is on. So someone move, please, that we endorse the proposed schedule for the future meetings, certainly the one on the 28th of November, and obviously David will come along with his colleagues in regards to the call-in on the housing issues. Someone prepared to move, please? Thank you, Norma. Thank you. Seconded by John. Anyone against? No, that's that. Item 14 is the date of next meeting. Obviously, the date of next meeting is 28th of November. Can I just say thank you to all the officers who attended this evening and for the contributions you've made, and obviously for taking on board the comments made by the committee. Can I thank the elected members and the lay members for their contribution again this evening, and for our committee team for supporting us well. And I now close the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone. And those of you at home, enjoy your supper, and those in the chamber, have a safe journey home.